Iron City built. It's time for the Steel City Nation podcast. Here's your host, Mark Maradei.
Steel City Nation, I come to you in disgust, dismay, and complete and utter, I'm pissed. And I'm not going to lie to you all. So what I did was I hit up my boy Rashene Hill again. He comes back with me for a third time. He's becoming a little bit of a regular with me, and that may continue. And I got 2/3 of my boys from the Sports Podium podcast. Big Chops and the Mike Doctor. Gentlemen, how's everybody doing this evening?
Man, let's put it this way. I was doing better 4 or 5 hours ago than I am now. But hey, it's me, Big Chops. I'm ready to do what I do, man. I'm ready to drop the actual factuals.
Yeah. And it's the Mike Doctor, baby. That's THEMICDR. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, man. Hey, listen, I don't think I'm as upset as you fellas are just yet. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that. It's not the end of the day.
Rashene, I know you got your head shaking over there. I know you're feeling it a little bit. You was blowing up my phone while we were watching this. I got it. I understand. And the way we're going to do this, we're going to start with you. We're just going to cut this up. I broke it down so that we're going to talk about that Ravens game first. And then since we're just 5 days later, we're going to talk about what we just witnessed, that abysmal effort. So let's start off with that Ravens chatter a little bit. Receivers catching balls against the Ravens. They had 8 drop balls against the Ravens. Rashene, 8 drop balls. What do you think?
I think those drops are, due to maybe taking our eyes off the ball. I mean, you always got to put the weather in there. That always plays a part in it. It shouldn't play a part because they are professionals. I don't know what we can do about that. I mean,
Chops is legit.
Man, okay. I understand what my man Rashene is saying on the weather. I get that. But here's the thing. If Ben was throwing with the velocity of Elway, okay, I see drop passes. But he wasn't doing that. These were 4-yard in routes, and these guys are dropping passes. And I got to give credit where credit's due. And I also put blame where blame is due. That wasn't on Ben. That was not on Ben last week, man. These guys are dropping passes, and it was like, okay, I get one guy has a bad game, but you had multiple guys dropping passes, and they're easy dink and dunk passes. That bothered me. Because those are passes they should not have dropped.
Mike Doc, who's the biggest culprit out there for him right now?
Man, I think it's all the way around, man. You guys got to realize they're a young wide receiver group, right? Juju's 24, and he's the veteran of the crew. And let's not forget, what did the Ravens do to stop him? Ben had the quickest release in the NFL, right? A little over 2 seconds. Snap, boom, quick hits. The Ravens came up, a little bit more press coverage. That disrupts all that. Then you got those little wide receivers, but they don't want to take those big shots going across the middle like that. So that's another thing you got to remember. Sometimes you get alligator arms, or you get to looking upfield or looking in a different direction. You're not trying to take that big shot. But they got to clean it up, man. They got to clean it up.
I'm going to tell you what, Joe. What's the excuse for Eric Ebron? Watching this big-ass tight end down the field, balls in his hands on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
He should be catching and running dudes over. Okay, he wants to get on Twitter and talk all that smack. Back it up, yo. Back it up. Man, I'm tired of seeing it with him.
And Mark, you hit it right on the head, because as Mike Doctor said, Juju's the veteran of the group. He's been in that system the longest, but Ebron's older. And we all know in most offenses, when everybody else is covered, it's either you're back out of the backfield or that tight end is your safety valve. And when your safety valve is dropping passes, where do you go from there?
Yeah,
where do you go from there? I don't know, man.
Why is Vance McDonald getting some looks though?
I've been asking that question all season. Last year, he was catching the ball, running people over, stiff arming people, 10 yards, driving them down the field. Now all of a sudden they just got him out there blocking.
Yeah. I mean, like Rashene said, prime example when he threw old boy from the Bucks out of the club, man. I mean, just a grown man move, and he was having a great. I just don't know. It's like he kind of fell from grace. But for me, man, with Ebron, man, he's just so inconsistent. But he doesn't always get all the looks all the time. You know what I mean? So I don't know if it's just hard for him to get into a flow. But I will say this, and I'm an Eric Ebron fan up to a certain point. I don't think he's a superstar, megastar by any stretch of the imagination. But I think he's a solid tight end if he has his head on right and he's in the game. But, man, this is what, his third team, fellas? Come on, you're a first round pick. I mean, there's a reason it's your third team, I think, man.
Yeah, and that's what bothers me. And I understand he's not the superstar, but he's first round pick, top 10 pick, so you expect a lot out of him.
Yeah, man.
And like you said, we want to believe as Steelers fans that they've proven their way is the way. They are going to run that organization the way they're going to run it, and it always works. But I want to know also what happened to McDonald. He didn't just stop learning how to play football. He didn't just stop learning how to catch.
Right.
So I'm wondering why. What do they see in practice, and what the drops that Ebron has, that you're still a better option for us than McDonald? That I don't know, man. I don't know.
I personally do think Ebron is the better option at the tight end position. When you look at their skill set and what they both bring to the table, but at the same time, it's hard to have him and Ebron on the field at the same time when you got Claypool, Johnson, Juju. You're trying to get all those cats on the field too, man. So I mean, it's ebb and flow with them, but they got to figure it out, buddy. They got to figure it out. They got to clean up them drop passes, and they got to get an identity.
Yeah, no doubt. The running game is broken. It was broken again. Let's talk about the running game against the Ravens before we even look at this week, today's game. The running game against the Ravens should have been gashing them. Their D line was it was nothing. Man, that was all backup guys. Their linebackers were not filling holes because we were getting to the second level with men, and we're not gashing them. So what's the answer there? What was the answer against the Ravens? Personally, I thought they used Derek Watt a little bit more. I saw him make one play. If you're not going to use that dude, I'm going to go Rashene tweets me every game. Rashene tweets me, why we got Derek Watt on the team? Why are we paying Derek Watt all that money? We don't need a special teams guy's worth $5 million for 3 years. That's unnecessary. Nope. So if you sign this guy to be your running back, what's the deal? What's the deal, Chops? Why aren't we doing it?
Well, first off, with Watt, he might as well wear a ski mask every time he cashes his check, because he's robbing the Steelers, because he is not earning it. But he can't go on the field if they don't put him on there. You know what I mean? But having said that, think about this, fellas. When we started, now again, Rashene, I can't speak for you, but for myself, Mike, Doc, and Mark, we started watching the Steelers back in the 70s when we were kids. So, and as far as we can go back, Blyer, Franco Harris, whether it's Bam Morris, whether it was the bus there, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what back you had there. 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, they got that yard. That was the Steelers. They punch you in the mouth. They can't do that anymore. That's what the Steelers might not have always been the most talented team on the field, but they were always the hardest. They were always, if you punch them in the mouth, they were punching back. I don't see that anymore, fellas. That's what bothers me. As Mike Duck said, what's their identity? Pittsburgh's a steel mill town. We know what our identity is. We're going to get in the trenches and fight. But they're just not doing that. They're not doing it.
But that's just it, Chops. I don't think they're that anymore. Those days of 3 yards in a cloud of dust, they're gone. Those long gone. I mean, look at the numbers he's putting up. Look at the wide receivers he's got. I mean, that is not the type of football team that they are any longer. So as I've been preaching all year, they can't run block. They're a great pass blocking team, but they cannot run block. Pouncey's out. You got, come on. They cannot run the football. James Conner out. Can't run the football. The Ravens had 11 starters out in that game? 11 starters between offense and defense, and you barely squeak by them. Hey, look, a win's a win, man. But if you want to win the Super Bowl, you got to be able to run the football.
So you guys don't think it's that stupid that the running back, the shotgun and the running back next to him? Because like I said earlier, I didn't play running back, but I think when you're lined up back, you can look left, you can look right, you can see things. It's like that next to him. I don't think we have guys who can do that. I don't think we don't have a Nick Chubb.
And like you guys talked about Watt. I mean, Chops talking about he's robbing a bank, but I mean, he really is. But do you think maybe he's there to try to help keep TJ there?
I think I said that not too long ago.
Because that's a small. I mean, because really, I mean, Knicks. He made Pro Bowls, a special teams player. He's blocking punts, doing things. I mean, you're really not getting much more. So the value that you would have of bringing Watt onto this team is trying to keep his brother here. That's just my personal opinion.
Well,
I mean, I get that's as good as guess as anybody's, because again, we can't say why you're not using them. Can't say. But as Rashene said real quick, would he be better off? Would the tailback be better off in the I position rather than standing beside the quarterback? I honestly don't know. If we put Ben under center, does he have enough time to get a 5-step drop
No,
and with
sorry.
that offensive line.
Well, I was gonna say, do it like the Ravens out of a pistol. You know what I mean? I was looking at film today because someone told me that. I said, hey, I brought that up on Facebook, and someone said, well, no one does that anymore. Cleveland only does that when they get down to the goal line. And I went and checked Chubb's highlights, and they had a lot where they were like in a pistol, a fullback next to the quarterback, and Chubb behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Ravens do the same thing, and they both ran on us. So why can't we try that? Or I don't know, man.
Honestly, Rashene, I'm willing to try it because right now the O-line can't block the sun out of their eyes. They can't block anyone. I mean, seriously, remember Gale Sayers used to say, all I need is 18 inches. That's all I need. 18. They couldn't even get Gale Sayers if he was in his prime today, 18 inches a day. Like, they're not opening.
Chops, the thing with Pittsburgh is they're not consistent. They'll have one game where, Connor and the running back by committee crew, they'll have a $150, right? They'll put up 150, look decent, a few catches out the back. Then the next game, you turn around, they're combined for 40, 50 yards between 2-3 of them. It's just crazy. I don't understand it, man. But to me, it's the offensive line. And for sure, with Pouncey being out, that hurts, fellas. I mean, game has to recognize game. Pro Bowl center, whether he's overrated or he's still making it by popularity contests, it remains to be seen. But the fact of the matter is, he's a much better center than Hassenauer or whoever they have in there trying to play now. So, and that's where it all starts with the center.
I'm gonna pull Lamar on y'all. I'm not gonna put it all on the offensive line. I'm just not. Me being an offensive lineman type of guy, loving coach offensive line, seeing it from that perspective.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that they got different styles of back in that backfield, and they don't use the style of back they have to mesh with the style of blocking they want up front. When you're handing the ball to Connor, when you're handing the ball to Snell, and you want them to go on a sweep, that's not the style of back those men are. It's just not. And we're trying to do that. Okay, those guys are downhill. They're tackle to tackle. They're pulling the backside, running the counter trade with those guys. They gash him on the counter trade. When you got a kid like McFarland, you let McFarland get that edge. You run the stretch with McFarland. You run the cutbacks with McFarland. That's what he's got. He's got that plant in the dirt, come back across the field and take off like lightning. He had a nice carry for 8 or 9 to start the second half tonight. When they got the ball, but we're not meshing our backs with the style of blocking that we need. Therefore, it makes it look like we have no run game. I think there needs to be some cohesiveness. I don't know if it's necessarily Saray or Fiegner's fault either. I don't know what Ben's thinking in that backfield. I know I heard that after that Ravens game, Fiegner threw Ben under the bus and said that Ben calls more of the offense when he's out on the field than you think. He said that we run more RPOs, and that was backed up by Charlie Batch. That was backed up by Chris Hoke. They said that there's a lot of RPOs going on there with Ben calling the play. So everybody who's throwing their hands up and saying it's all Fiegner, it's not, man. It's
I'm with you, man. And you would think, I mean, this is Ben's 17th year, man. He got 2 Super Bowls, been to 3. I mean, he's a Pro Bowler. He's arguably a first ballot Hall of Famer. So he has that flexibility, I'm sure. But 51 passing attempts per game, back-to-back weeks, 51. That's not what they want to do, man. I mean, I'm telling you, they will not go anywhere trying to throw the ball 50 times a game. It's going to catch up with them like it did tonight against Washington. You just can't do it every week. You can't do it every week.
You think they should have taken a flyer on Le'Veon Bell?
It's hard, man, because I like Connor. If Connor stays healthy, he's okay. He gives you something. He's the best of the 3, right? He's better than Snell and he's better than McFarland. I mean, yeah, you throw Samuels in there, he's of course too, but I don't know, man. I just don't think they're a good run blocking team. They're not. They're not a good run blocking team.
That's where I'm with it. So to me, it doesn't matter. The only one I think would be able to put up numbers behind that line would be Barry Sanders, because he was behind a line that couldn't block. And but other than that, seriously, fellas, if you notice in the last 2 games, and a lot of the games, but the last 2 games, the O-line is being pushed back a yard or 2 even before the back hits the line. So the D-line is resetting the offensive line, pushing it back. So I don't know how or what back would be able to do anything. And as Marcus, you said, They need to block differently for the type of back that they have. When we know they have Connor, and he's a between the tackle type of guy. And as Mike Doc said, they might be able to bang out 130, 141 game, and then for the next 3 or 4 games, they don't even have 60 yards rushing. So to me, when they get the 150, that's more of like any given Sunday. It could
Right.
happen, but that's not the norm. You know
Well,
what I
let me
mean?
say
So
this, fellas. This is where I'm coming from. When they tonight against Washington, 1st and goal, right? Come on. You can't punch it in there. You resort to trick plays, trying to throw it to Hawkins, a come in eligible tackle because you know you can't run the football.
Yeah.
But what did Tom do? No, let's run it, and you don't get it. That lets you know this team cannot run the football. They can't run the football. They cannot run the football, fellas. We can say, oh, is it this? Is it that? Point blank, they got to figure out a way to get some kind of running back production, but their success is going to have to be through the air. But I don't think that gets them past the Kansas City. I don't think Ben and them boys can sling the rock like Kansas City and them can. They gotta. Denver almost knocked them off, and they did it by being able to run the ball a little bit and keeping Pat Mahomes on the sidelines. If you're going 3 and out, like what they Pittsburgh came out tonight, what quick 3 and outs or something like that?
yeah, man.
You turn around up Kansas City, you down 14-0.
Yeah.
It just and that is a big thing because if you think about it, whether it's Kansas City, whether it's Tennessee, whether if they go to whoever you play in most, not if cold weather in this AFC playoffs, you're going to have to be able to run. So it's going to come down to the defense, always giving the Steelers a short field, and they're going to have to look for a couple special teams or defensive scores. They're going to have to because the offense is just I don't know, fellas. I don't know. It just it's now where the rubber is starting to meet the road. We're seeing more issues, whether it's the lack of the running game or drop passes. That's not how you want to run it as you get into the playoffs. We got these other teams in the AFC that are getting hot. That's what the Steelers should be doing, and they're not. And that's
Let me ask you this, fellas. Do you think Pouncey being out the last 2 games has a significant impact on the running game?
Sure it does.
Sure.
Absolutely. So if
So
Pouncey played,
He's showing you where the mic is. He's telling you what the adjustment is up front. There's no question about it.
So
Also, have Connor out for 2 games.
right. So if you have Pouncey in the mix against the Ravens and against Washington, and let's say you have Connor as well available, I think they still win both of those games. And I think they run the football a little bit better. I don't think they're a great football running team, but with Pouncey, it's a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Okay, Mark, real quick, as you were an offense, you say you coach the offensive lineman. Even though Pouncey's not there, you got Castro on one side and you got Villanueva on the other. With those anchors, with those veterans, they can't tell the other lineman beside them who they should be picking up, who they should be blocking. They don't know themselves.
I don't think that's an issue of whether they need to tell those guys or not. I watched the other day against the Ravens when what's his name? Offensive tackle. Come on, help me out here, man.
Core 4, Villanueva.
No, the other a core 4, yeah. A core 4, he went out. They immediately took Filer, put him over there at that spot, brought Dotson in, put him at that guard. Okay, I watched it happen, and it was without a hitch. Okay, Filer's not an issue moving around on that offensive line. I don't think necessarily they need to make calls about what's going to happen in terms of blocking once it's live action. I just think the aggressiveness of that line. I was listening to, or actually I was reading on Twitter this week. I think it was Mark Cabali out of Pittsburgh who writes for, I believe it's The Athletic now. He said that he had a Zoom interview with David DeCastro, and David DeCastro seemed about as disinterested in being an 11-0 team and continuing this run as anybody could possibly be as an 11-0 team. He said he showed no emotion. He wasn't excited at all. So that led me to thinking, okay, what's missing in that locker room now? You should be excited as hell as an 11-0 team. I know one of the things I heard TJ Watt say immediately following the loss of Bud Dupree. The next day, he said, yes, we're going to miss Bud on the field, but I think we're going to be okay out there. Where we're going to miss Bud at is in the locker room.
Yeah.
We're going to miss Bud in the locker room.
That
Rashene,
speaks volumes. That speaks volumes.
what's that locker room like without a guy like Bud who's been there now?
Yeah, but you still got the Cam Haywards and the Tulans.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man.
Man,
You got
yeah.
cats in there, Joe Haydens. You got those cats in there that's like, man, come on.
You would
I want you to remember this. when James Harrison threw the Steelers under the bus, the first guy to step up and give somebody some shit was Bud Dupree. And he said, I don't know how Harrison can know what's going on in the game. He either fell asleep or he left early if he knew he wasn't part of the game plan. That tells me that's a vocal leader that you need in that locker room. That makes it kind of scary to me.
And the fact that Watt put that out there, the fact that he spoke that into and let people know, that's where we're going to miss him. That's what's because even though you have Hayward, even though you have Hayden, you would have thought that those guys would be the vocal leaders in the locker room. And when Watt said, this is where we're going to miss him, I was like, whoa. I mean, that did speak volumes to me. That stuck out to me also.
There's different types of vocal leaders in that locker room. There's the guy who's like, we need to do this by doing this. There's the guy who says, I got my group is ready to go. And then there's the guy like Bud Dupree who has no problem stepping up to anybody and saying, you better get your shit together if you're going to be part of what we have going forward. Yeah. And that's what he did. And I think that's what TJ Watt was saying, not to downplay Cam Hayward's role on that team, not to play Hayden down on that team, but there are different types of leadership. And I think what Watt meant was they're going to miss that type of personality.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's interesting that Watt would say that because in contrast, you would think that he would step up. I mean, he's the defensive MVP of the year candidate this year. He was last year. He probably arguably could have won it last year instead of Gilmore. He's more than likely going to win it this year now with 12 sacks and all this stuff, him and Aaron Donald. So why doesn't he step up and be that type of person, man?
Because real quick, not to cut anybody off, and I'll give you 10 seconds, Rashene, because as Mark just put on it, there's different kind of leaders. To me, Watt is the kind of leader, do as I do. I'm going to lead by example. That's what I get. That's what I lead. He'll lead by example. And I apologize, Rashene.
That's what I was going to say. Exactly.
He just brings it, beyond a shadow of a doubt, whether he's double teamed, whether you try to tackle and try to chip him with the back, Watt is bringing it. He's bringing it. And that's the best to me. You don't get much better as a teammate on the field than Watt, the way he brings it. The way
you got to think of past leaders also. I mean, you had it was like Joey Porter.
Yeah.
I had to go back even further back, Greg Lloyd. Those guys might actually put their hands on you.
Yeah. It was a different type. Yeah, but some of those guys can just talk, and then some of those guys literally talk to you, get in your face, and put that fire under you. And I guess Bud is that type of dude who will bring the fire and say, if you want this smoke, let's get it. Let's do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Boys, pay special attention with Highsmith. These next handful of games are going to dictate whether Bud's money is going to be there or not. And they're going to have to make a decision on how they allocate that money. You may lose Juju if you keep Bud.
I think Juju's gone.
I don't know though. I just don't know. I don't know if you could lose that.
Okay, first of all, you're going to have to call Brinks and let them know in advance how many trucks you're going to need to pay TJ Watt, because he will be the highest paid defensive player, or he's out of Pittsburgh. You can believe that, because somebody's going to give him the money unless they franchise him and all that. But to me, you got Claypool, you got Deontay Johnson, James Washington. When he's given an opportunity, he seems to be taking advantage of him. Ben keeps preaching and saying, man, James just needs more opportunities. I don't know, man. Juju, tonight? He didn't have a catch until almost the third quarter. Did he even have a catch in the first half?
He had a couple catches in the first half.
Did he?
Yeah, but nothing, they're not significant.
I know he had like 7 catches for 28 yards. I mean, 4 yards a catch. That lets you know what kind of offense they're running.
They're running their short passing game is their run game.
Yeah.
It is. Well, let's go back to Bud. I don't know if I sent you that. I think that Bud, because of his injury, his audition is over.
Yeah.
So now he's going to have to take maybe a 1-year deal to show that he's back to normal and then go.
Especially with the injury,
be able to get him for cheap.
Especially with an ACL that late in the year. That's late in the year. So oh man, it'll be interesting to see. But I watched Highsmith tonight. He didn't stick out, and you can look at that as good or bad. He didn't stick out because he really didn't play bad, but he didn't stick out because he wasn't lighting it up. But it's his first start. Kid's coming out of
Charlotte.
Come on. So I mean, it's a different stage. He's made some plays, got a pick, got a sack, all that this year. But it's going to take some time for him to get comfortable. Those are big shoes to fill.
Okay. And I'm going to say something real quick. I got broad shoulders. I can take whatever trash you're going to get because Mike Dodd gives it to me every week when I say it. I am not a Bud Dupree fan and believing that he's all that. because as Watt
I've
said,
been
we're not going to miss him on as much on the field. We're going to miss him in the locker room. Okay. I am pointing this out every week. And when Bud comes, well, he won't be back this year. Bud is not beating tackles the way Watt beats tackles. Bud has sacks when he's not blocked and he has a free route, or he's knocked back 3 or 4 yards and loops around and makes the tackle, whatever have you. Bud is not beating anyone. And that's why, to me, I don't see how he's that big of a loss. And if you can watch film, whatever have you, start look at some of most of his sacks. See how many he just straight beat the tackle, or see how many they just blew it and didn't block Bud Dupree.
Charles, I think a lot of it, I think him and Watt are a nice compliment to each other. And they remind me, fellas, I'm going to say this, you're going to think I'm crazy, but listen to me. They remind me of Harrison and Woodley when they were in their heyday, balling out. And what did Pittsburgh do? Paid them both, and they paid for it. That salary cap, they kept kicking that can down the road, restructures, doing all that. And they eventually Woodley had to get up out of it. I hope they don't do the same thing, but I think Dupree and Watt are kind of that combination together. They're young, and they're solid outside linebackers, fellas.
But no matter who is on the other side from Watt, when you had Bud, if you thought Bud was all that, Watt was still getting his. You had Highsmith on this side. If you didn't think, as you're an offense and you don't think Highsmith needs to be doubled and we'll put our attention to Watt, Watt still got off tonight. Watt is always going to get his.
Yeah,
I just don't, I don't know, man.
I'm paying Watt. I'm gonna tell you right
Without
now.
question.
And guys,
better than one.
they think I'm crazy. And Mike Doc, I know what you're saying, but I'm probably paying Juju. I'm not paying Juju 5 years. I'm paying him 3 or 4 years. He brings something to that team on the offensive side of the ball that young group still needs. And unless somebody actually said, hey, look, okay, Deontay Johnson, he is in the top 2 in the league in drops.
He had a couple tonight.
Yes.
You know, he's in the top 2 in drops. Yes, Chase Claypool was having a great rookie season. He's going to hit a wall next year, man. Yeah. He's going to hit a wall. They're going to understand how to take care of him. Ebron drops the damn ball. I'll say one thing for Juju. He does not drop the ball. And Juju,
he had a couple
He has a couple, but I'm telling you what, he comes to play. He keeps that group together. That group looks at him. Juju is the current day Hines Ward.
Yeah, I think he's in that mold, but he's not on that level yet. But he's he's only 24. What was he, 19, 20 on the Steelers? Come on, think about it when you were 20 years old. Can you imagine 20 years old rookie in the NFL playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, man.
And balling out.
I don't think he wants to go anywhere either. I think
he doesn't. He doesn't.
He is watching what these other guys do. He watched these guys. I heard that the New York Jets have him as a primary target this offseason.
Yes.
The New York Jets.
Well, they should be targeting.
Back the truck up. Let's go to the Brinks truck. They backed it up into the Maradei driveway, and my boy was playing, and he was balling like Juju. My boy would not sign with them. I would tell him to take less money, stay where it's good, because you will get other money down the road. Going to the Jets, that's career suicide, in my opinion.
They'd have to. Not to go down that rabbit hole, but they need to get rid of Gase and everybody else before I'd even think about going there, to be honest with you. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Juju, we'll see, man. I love Juju Smith-Schuster as a football player. He is a Pittsburgh Steeler. That's the type of players that they like. But I just don't notice that his production translate to giving them decent money.
Right. I agree with that.
I don't think he's going to get millions and millions. I think he recognizes that part of it.
He doesn't get millions and millions.
He's a possession receiver. He's going to get paid like a possession receiver. Okay. The Roonies are going to look at him, and if he is truly buying into the Steeler way, the Roonies are going to look at him and they're going to say, we're going to pay you like this. You're going to set yourself up to make additional money like this, and we're going to take care of you throughout your career. And you know what? Those guys who have gone that route with the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to talk to that man and say, hey, listen, this is what happens in the Steeler organization. Or you can go somewhere else and make a lot of money like Mike Wallace and just become a name.
Yeah, they got a few people they got to pay, man, coming up.
What no one is mentioning is if he doesn't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't stay the same if Ben leaves.
Well, when you talk about that, now we're talking about how many more seasons do you think Ben has, and And the entire receiving core is young. They're young. If Ben even went next year but they do bring in his replacement, possibly in a draft or someone, whatever have you, and he starts next year, starts the year after that, then starts, as they say, grooming.
Who would they bring in? Think about it. They're
Draft
11
somebody.
and 1. They're 11-1. They're not drafting anywhere top 15.
No. Well,
Yeah,
but
but
see,
still.
again.
Listen, I'm going to say this, and we'll bring and I hope we talk about this in the future. I've been throwing this out there.
James Winston.
If
I like
Pittsburgh
that.
goes on
Listen to this.
and they win the Super Bowl, and Ben decides to ride off into the sunset.
Oh, he is.
The Green Bay Packers drafted Jordan Love. They gave him first round, moved up to go get him.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers on his way out. He'd be a nice stopgap in Pittsburgh for a year or two to make it fine. The salaries are the same. To make it $35 million a year, it's a wash. And you still running with the same squad. Why not? I know the Saints are targeting Aaron Rodgers from what I understand down here in Louisiana when Breeze retires after this year. But why not Pittsburgh?
I think Ben's going to ink a 2-year deal after this year.
If they give him another deal, doesn't he already have 2 years left?
No, he has 1 year left. I think they're going to give him a 2-year deal on top of this. This is the buzz. They're going to give him a 2-year deal on top of this so they can stretch money out and be able to pay some people.
I think he has 2 more years on his contract, bro. He's making $35 million a year, and I think he's only behind Russell Wilson this year.
Okay,
as far as salary, and I think he has 2 more years. Didn't they give him a 3-year extension or a 2-year extension last year? I don't know. We'll see.
$41 million hit next year. He's a $41 million hit next year.
So you're trying to tell me if he doesn't retire, you could take that, and that's wash money, bring in Aaron Rodgers, or is it a pipe dream? Am I talking a pipe dream?
I don't think the Steelers would bring.
Hey, how fitting John Bostic gets the pick to seal the deal. John Bostic,
man, it's. But see, I would love to see Ben play another year, but bring in his heir apparent, whether it is somebody young, and let him grow with those young receivers. Or even though he'll be young, maybe the receivers they'll have a few years with him in that system to help guide him along. But I think
who
because
not drafting, they're not
may not be in the draft. But then again, on that aspect, we don't know. There can be a second or a third round. Dak was a 4th round pick, and he's going to be their franchise. It may not be a 1st or 2nd rounder. You never know who could end up shining.
Yeah, I mean,
really don't.
It's hit or miss. But let me ask you fellas this. Did you guys see when Pittsburgh been up at least 14 points at home there in Hines, they were 78-1-1?
Yeah.
Today was a trap game. You take it for what it's worth.
A lot of people, it is a trap game, but at the same time, both of your corners are out. Your middle line, your backup to your starting middle linebacker goes out. Your starting center's out. Your starting running backs out. I mean, they're banged up all over the place.
Hey, Mike Dock, 2021's the last year on his deal. He's making 41. He counts 41 million. I got a date for you guys. Wow. You can go ahead and boo me right out of the house, even though it's my show. But how about if Darnold gets cut?
Oh, Sam Darnold. Juju, there was a lot of chatter. Juju was asked about Darnold in Pittsburgh, and he was saying, hyping him up. And I made a comment out there and said, Juju needs to worry about playing wide receiver, something. People was like, hey, man, that's his college quarterback. It's a thing. Why not? And then when you think about it, because Trevor Lawrence is going there, you can believe that. They already got his ticket. They already told him, look, 6 o'clock on this day, you're going to be in New York. But
his locker's already ready.
It would be interesting.
See, and here's real quick. Mike Dock and I go back and forth on this. This is what I've been saying since day one. Your boy Darnold had a turnover problem in college. His turnover problem is following him into the NFL. Like the old adage, say people, he is what he is. We know by now. And even if you put better, and it's not even that he's fumbling a lot. He is throwing interceptions. He now knows this offense. If he had a lot more drops, I'd put it on receivers. But he knows this offense, and he's still throwing INTs. Is that he can't read the defense? He has a turnover issue.
Name one of his wide receivers.
I was going to say the same thing, Mike.
And again, if he – hold on.
Just name one. Name his tight end.
Just give me one.
Name his running back.
Hold on. And I understand. If they're dropping passes, that's on them.
Right.
But if he's throwing – I don't know.
Name a tight end.
Hold on. Ben
Name his
had
back.
dropped. Hold on. I don't care if they're I don't care if it's Jerry Rice on one side and Randy Moss on the other. Dropping passes is on the receiver. Throwing INTs, you have to start looking at the quarterback. Come on, fellas. This is the same guy who had receivers and had teams and guys in college. Don't forget, they thought he was the Heisman. He was going to win the Heisman going into his senior year.
He beat Penn State in the Rose Bowl when
he
Saquon
led the
Barkley ran for
NCAA in
250.
turnovers. He led the NCAA in turnovers. And this is a problem.
He can play.
with
He can.
following him.
I like him. I like him.
Good question, Mike. When Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator for the Steelers, who was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL?
Yes, I understand that, and I understand.
What did they do to remedy that in the NFL to save that quarterback's career? What did they do? They changed offensive coordinators, right? They changed the system. Okay, he has continued to flourish under his system. I know we don't like the 3 and 4 yard dunks. But you know what? He's not getting hit as often. He's not getting sacked as often.
He hasn't been sacked in 5 games.
Yeah,
5 games.
Since November 1st. He has not been sacked since November 1st. How about if you bring a guy like Darnold in who is throwing those picks because he's throwing those mid to deep balls. He has to read so much, and you tell him, you got him, or him. They're all underneath. You pick one. One of them is going to be open, and you start teaching him how to throw the underneath stuff. And then you progress him. Let Ben work with him. Let Canada work with him. That's the other thing. We'll get into that in a second. But
I think Ben would do that. He wouldn't work with Mason.
No, Ben. Listen, when Ben retires, Ben probably will only show up for photo ops and things like that. He's going to be chilling. Ben is not about to come back there and try to be a quarterback coach and be a mentor. Okay,
I get it. I get that part of it. But at least let the kids sit back and watch and maybe pick Ben's brain a little bit while he would be there backing him up. If they sign Ben to a 2-year deal, okay, he has 3 more years on this deal. Let's say he plays top shelf for 2 more years. He starts sliding in 2023. All right. Well,
Mark, here's the problem with that, bro. If you trade for Darnold, which you would probably have to, right?
They're going to cut him outright. They're not going to.
And why would he go to Pittsburgh? He'd probably go somewhere where, get a better opportunity where he could start a little bit more money.
If I was looking for a long-term career and I wanted some opportunity on a winning team because I've already played on a team that wasn't bringing the heat.
So you don't think that, first of all, the Jets will try to trade him first, and you don't think anyone will trade for him?
Who needs a quarterback?
I mean, look at Rosen bounce around a couple of times.
Yeah, but hold on, Phil. But
Jaguars. But I think they can't get Trevor Lawrence. I mean, they're waiting on Justin Fields, I'm sure, but
probably going to bring back in.
But I don't know how many of these young players have that mindset.
Cowboys.
I'll take a little less money to be with a winning organization. Right. A lot of these young cats, me, I want my money. I want my money. Yeah. So I don't know how many of them would come to Pittsburgh saying, yeah, I'll take a little less money now because I can be with a great organization rather than I'll go here because I'm going to make more money. I'm going to make money. I want my brand. So I don't know, man. I just don't know. And here's my thing also. If Ben has not worked with and been a mentor at all to Mason.
I think he is now. I think he wasn't happy, just like Rodgers wasn't happy when nobody wants to see the replacement. Yeah, we just took your replacement. So he probably was feeling some kind of way when they asked him, he's given a playbook. That's how you learn, the same way I did. But now I think he's more. Ben realized Mason ain't my replacement, so he's probably trying to help him.
But that was 3 years ago. But I haven't. Have you really think you've seen much improvement in Mason?
Nah, he sucks.
He hasn't played. I mean,
it doesn't matter.
The last time we seen him, he got the shit knocked out of
him. When he came in, he relieved Ben at the end of which game was that? Ben went off and he had to come in and he looked like a deer in headlights. I'm gonna tell you something. Ever since Earl Thomas put a helmet in his
laid him out,
he went out. That man's career was over. I'm sorry. He can stick around the league all he wants and make people believe it's not, but I know for damn sure that he is still feeling some sort of way after that.
Well, let me ask you fellas this, and since we're talking about, Ben's replacement, and we just sat here and talked about how bad Pittsburgh is at running the football. Connor can't stay healthy. I don't think any of you on here right now think Snell is the answer. If you do, please hang up and we'll continue. McFarland's probably not the answer. So does Pittsburgh need to be looking at a running back?
That's funny you say that. During the game, I texted that to Mark. I said,
I seen that.
I don't care what you guys say. In the first or second round, we got to take a running back.
They will not draft a running back that high.
They won't. Not the Steelers won't.
Second round, it may be.
That's the organization. That's the organization.
Wait a minute. Ho. Go back. Wait. So we talking about forever? Y'all remember Walter Abracadabra Abercrombie?
They took Rashard Mendenhall in the first round. They took Mendenhall in the first round.
His career like?
Worley.
Yeah.
Those guys had short careers in Pittsburgh.
I think that's why the Steelers got burnt on them. Man. And I'm done. Me and Mike
Give
Doc
up the house. Give up the house for Saquon. Go get Saquon.
Yeah.
If you don't know, Mike Doc is everything Penn State. He's everything Penn State. He's everything Penn State. I like Benny Snell. I like Snell. I don't know if he could be a future.
What does he bring to the table? What does he bring to the table?
Any lanes? He gets no lanes to run in, man. And you never. I mean, to me, the running back position is literally on any given Sunday. Any running back can shine if he gets a little bit of run, a hole or two here or there. He can't get anything like Samuel. We thought Samuel was going to be decent. Samuel's not even getting run the line. None of the offensive running backs have shown me anything. But again, it's not fair to them because whether it's play calling, whether it's scheme, which does bother me because the Washington couldn't run tonight, but they used McKissick or however you pronounce his name out in the flat on short passes, which were almost like the running. We see how creative your boys in Kansas City get. The Steelers, I understand they don't have that personnel, but when you realize your offensive line can't block, you have to somehow get creative. And I don't see any creativity.
And fellas,
that scares me.
And they did that with Gibson getting hurt. That was my fear because I got Antonio Gibson on my fantasy team, and he goes off. He had 4 touchdowns last week. He's the one I was worried about. So when he got nicked up, I was like, okay, cool. They should be straight. I was not expecting old boy to come in and do what he did. But then again, Spillane goes out. You got Avery Williamson in there. I don't know,
Decent
man.
In the run, not the pass.
They're hurting, man. They're hurting for sure.
It's a matter of creativity that Fichtner doesn't bring to the table that Canada does. When you go back to the first 4 or 5 games when we had a lot of motion going on, we were running jet sweep, quick flip. We were doing a lot of things that was making the defense shift and adjust, and we were putting points on the board. For some reason, Canada's influence on that offense has gone away, and you can see it clearly. You can clearly see it.
Who do you put that on?
I say that because Canada is a college-minded coach from that perspective.
Pick guy.
And he did a great job. He did a great job at LSU. He did a decent job down here at Maryland with the talent that they had. He did a good job at Pitt.
Yeah.
I
find it hard to believe, man, fellas, you guys, it'll take you 2 days to convince me that he's making that big. Ben, this is his 17th year. Ben's calling what he wants. We just talked about it. He's calling what he wants 80% of the time, probably red zone and everywhere else. I don't know, man. We talked about the drops. We talked about how they don't have a running game. We talked about starters being out. I mean, you just look at the whole gamut. It's kind of like this whole quiet storm. And I think, to be honest with you, the question I really want to say is that I watched Cleveland thump Tennessee, although Tennessee came back at the end. Pittsburgh and Cleveland still have a one-on-one to go. They're only 2 games up with 4 left, and Pittsburgh got to play Buffalo and Indy.
I thought
it could get interesting.
It would be Buffalo. I didn't think it would be tonight.
Yeah, I did too, man. I did too. But it could get interesting if they lose to Buffalo and then Indy beats them going down to the last game, and Cleveland goes out week 16, last game of the year. They could it could be for the division title.
Okay, so let me go back to where you were about 5 minutes ago when you said we had a lot of starters out. We're going to have starters back. You're going to get Pouncey back.
Yes.
You're going to get Connor back. Okay,
Yes.
You're going to get those 2. My inclination is even if Nelson sat out this week, it was kind of like let's just let him have a rest and play Sutton. He's been playing well. My inclination is if Hayden has a concussion, he may miss the Buffalo game. We'll get him back and flip Sutton to the other side. Okay, my concern is going to start being that depth at that linebacker spot.
For sure.
I know right after Bud went out, they were talking about bringing dudes in. And this question is going to go right to Rashene to start this off. Do you even look at a 42-freaking-year-old James Harrison, even entertain that question? Okay, he put some garbage out that he was talking to the doctor about his knee. Got to get ready. He hasn't had 8 sacks since 2011. Clay Matthews, who hasn't played this year, had 8 sacks, 2 forced fumbles last year. Is he a guy you want to bring in? Really, you need somebody to set the edge. Maybe not necessarily pass rush. You get something from Highsmith with the pass rush. It disrupts that pocket because he is fast. You need somebody with a big ass that's going to set that edge. Rashene, what are you doing?
You don't think Harrison will set the edge?
I think he'll set the edge at 42 years old. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not what I want.
Yeah, you're right. That's probably all he's going to do. I mean, I don't know where we're going to go from here.
Fellas, let me ask
out
you,
there?
Rashene, let me ask you this, because we all know Harrison left on bad terms. So, I mean, if you're Colbert and Tomlin, are you really willing to bring him back under that? I don't think so. But let me ask you this, and this is the unheard. And I threw it out there the first time, and people thought I was crazy. I like the Clay Matthews, though. I do like that, Mark.
Wow.
What about T. Sizzle?
He's old too.
Yeah,
but if you're just him and Highsmith together, right? He's a veteran.
But
he come on. You don't think all them years battling pit, you don't think he'd come in there and, oh man, I'm telling you, I think 1 year, league minimum, just bring him in, situational pass rusher, big time situations. You got the young kid Highsmith. You don't think so? Man, I'm telling you, fellas.
Nah.
I like Highsmith. I like Highsmith.
I do too.
But here's my thing.
They don't have anybody behind them but Ole.
Yeah. Let walk. I can't see Harrison. I can't see Harrison. Or now honestly, and I say I got to bring in your boy Matthews even before Suggs. I do.
Suggs got Matthews. That dog in him, man.
He does. He does. He does bring and you know what? Maybe he brings that mindset that the defense needs now that Bud's gone. You might be onto something, Mike Doc.
Just for 4 games. 4 games in the playoffs. Yeah. Take a run at it.
You think he's in shape?
That's gonna be.
Well, he played. Did he play last year for Arizona? I'm sure
Arizona didn't cut him.
Sure, he got to be sitting around waiting on an opportunity. You know, a player like that, he's a Hall of Famer, no question. So
he'd wear the black and gold, Mike Doc.
He
said he'd never wear the black and gold.
He said he would, but
yeah,
Mike Thomas said, look here, bro. We only need you for 6-7 games, and you got an opportunity to win a ring, man. Come on in, baby.
He says he said that when teams wanted him. Now
he's played for Cleveland.
Now he's been sitting at the house chilling for a little bit. Yeah,
watching him at 11-0, then go down 11-1 and say, man, I could play with that defense.
Yeah.
So you guys are in agreement that we have to bring someone in.
I think so, Rashene, because listen, let's just say Highsmith gets hurt. Who do they have? But Ole, that's it. I don't even Gilbert. Who could they use at the outside linebacker position?
J-Ron Elliott. That's the other one.
Come on. Does he have any meaningful snaps?
He's a special teams guy. He plays a lot of special teams. He spent most of the season on the practice squad. So
and you're banking on the year you're trying to make a run. You're sitting here 11-1. You're sitting pretty right now, and you're banking on whatever you said his name was to come in and do something.
No, listen, this is just my question.
I'm just saying.
I'm done with Clay Matthews.
I don't even keep track of practice squad players, baby. I go too deep. If you ain't too deep, you're not in the conversation. So T. Sizzle, Matthews, I mean, one of them, but they got to bring somebody in, all jokes aside. Ole plays well. I mean, Highsmith, you can start Ole top backup, but I still say you got to bring in a dog, a veteran, somebody that has that presence, somebody that's been in big games, somebody that's
just like
the lights won't be too big.
What was it last year, the year before? He didn't play much, but when the Patriots needed Harrison, he had that one big play to cause a fumble, what have you. I mean, it'd be nice. I mean, but I like Highsmith, and you're right. But if he goes down, who do we got? Hopefully and your boy Watt is mentoring.
You can't say, fellas, look, both corners tonight. And I mean, I think Justin Lane played fairly well. He made some nice plays. Hilton played his
lights out.
Played his tail off.
I had that conversation too. Hilton or Sutton, who do you keep?
I'm keeping Hilton. I'm Hilton. I've been saying Hilton since day one. There's a reason why he's starting in the slot, but he doesn't give you the flexibility to bump outside and be a corner, a boundary corner like Sutton can. You know what I mean? So you're missing that.
Yeah, I have to, because Hayden's on his last year of his deal next year.
Yeah.
I'm keeping them both because I'm not re-signing Hayden. Hayden be 33, 34 next year. I don't want a corner who's 34, 30, 35 years old. I don't need to stretch that out anymore.
Fellas, T-Sizzle, they got to make a run this year. They got to pay people. Look, you got Minka and Terrell Edmonds, same draft class. So you're going to have to figure that one out, right?
Minka.
Okay. You're going to still have to
Wait, I'm sorry. Minka and who?
Terrell Edmonds. They're in the same draft class.
Oh man, you let Edmonds.
Terrell.
Yeah, okay, but now you're trying to find somebody to replace him.
Man, anybody. You could bring his dad in, Farrell.
What they got Sean Davis back. You see Sean Davis made a play. And I sat there tonight, fellas, and I said, man, Sean Davis, 2nd round pick out of Maryland, started for Pittsburgh, 4 years, leaves, goes to Washington, gets beat out by Troy Apke out of Penn State and an undrafted rookie free. So he comes back and signs with Pittsburgh. Tell me that's not a fall from grace.
Man.
Yeah.
Man.
That's from the penthouse to the shit house.
Man, you ain't lying.
So let's keep going. So you said Minka and Edmonds. Edmonds all day. Go.
Okay, Minka and Edmonds. Now you still got TJ Watt you got to resign, right? Yeah. You got Cam Hayward sitting out there that doesn't have a deal yet.
He does. They signed him.
Yeah, he do. We just gave him one this year.
They signed Hayward, yeah.
They extended him? Okay, my bad. Where's Tua would add on his?
Tua's got 2 more years.
Tua's good. Alua. Where's Tyson Alua?
Alualu's up after this year.
So then if you let him go, you got Bugs, and who else do they have behind?
We can't let
Henry Mondo.
Oh man,
my man Mondo.
Come on. Listen to what we're saying here. Listen to it. I mean, look at all those holes. Then you got to turn on the offensive side of the ball. We already talked about Juju.
But Mark and I have talked about this before.
What about Connor?
Man,
I'm letting him walk.
They got decisions, man. They got some decisions to make.
I think when the O-line gets solid and they're solidified up, I think you can plug almost any back in there and they're going to produce. When they come in with the Steeler way, the Steeler mindset, they're hard-nosed, any running back's going to do pretty well.
Fellas, I'm going to say this, and I'm telling you, I said it when it happened. When Pittsburgh got Fred Johnson, he was out of Florida. They got him as an undrafted rookie free agent, the guard, because he had gotten in trouble. And they exposed him by releasing him, and Cincinnati picked him up that week. This was earlier in the year. He was their future left guard to me. I don't like Filer. I don't like what they're trying to do. I think they missed it on him. Fred Johnson, he plays for Cincinnati now. That was the guy we needed to keep that line solid. I don't like Filer. We still got to talk about Villanueva. What are you going to do with him?
He's not a free agent. They're not going to re-sign him.
So who's playing left tackle? You going to move Chucks over there?
So wait, you're gonna have to make a decision if you want to sign Banner or Villanueva. You got a choice there. I'm probably going to go Banner because he's younger.
Who's your left tackle, Mark?
Then your left tackle is going to have to either be Chooks or Banner.
Chooks couldn't even beat out Banner at right tackle. How's he going to be a left tackle?
He played pretty good against Filer.
You can ink Filer and put him in the tackle. Filer plays well, man. I don't care what you say.
Mike Dog doesn't like him. He's not a fan.
I think he's a solid backup. He's a nice swing guy. I don't like him as a starter on Pittsburgh's offensive line.
He killed it for him last year at that right tackle.
He did, which is why they kept him.
Besides Pouncey, who do you like on the line?
I like DeCastro. I do like DeCastro.
I'll tell you what, he's having a miserable year. I watched him a lot tonight. He's just getting manhandled now. He really is. He seems to have lost something. I don't know if it really is his fire and passion for the game or something. Dotson's going to be starting somewhere on that line next year.
He's a dog.
You go ahead and write that down.
Yeah, he's next year. They're plugging him in probably left guard.
When you're talking about who you keep, who you let go, did you notice when it was the goal line stands and they had 4 plays from within inside the 2? They kept running to the right. They did not run behind Villanueva.
Because he's a pass blocker.
But okay, you're right. And we realize we have to have the running game now. So when it comes down to, does that go into, and that has to benefit and, play a factor in your decision. Who do we keep Villanueva or Banner? You know what I mean? Because now I think we already knew you need to run, especially in the AFC North. And AFC, that's what they hard-nosed football in the AFC North. But the Steelers can't run, to me, which is losing some of their identity. And if you can't run, you can't sign Villanueva for decent big money for more years. I like Banner. I like Banner.
And I mean, I know this is good, healthy conversation, and it's down the road, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves and all that stuff, but it's still fun to talk about. But at the end of the day, the reality of it is, fellas, does Pittsburgh even win the division?
Ooh.
Do they still win the AFC North?
I'm going to tell you what, this is a wake-up call tonight, and you're going to see a different team step on that field against Buffalo next week.
Why wasn't last week a wake-up call?
Because they won. And they were playing this game the same way they played last week. And they thought that style of playing could get them through. This is a wake-up call tonight.
Didn't Ben throw 51 times today too?
Yes.
Back-to-back game, 51.
Yes.
Fellas.
And see, go ahead, Mike Doc. Go ahead.
Fellas, I'm telling you, that's not going to get it done. It's not gonna get it done.
I agree.
And that's what worries me. And I understand what you're saying, Mark, because they won. Now, we have not seen teams don't go undefeated, don't have the perfect season. I get that. So I understand if you're going to lose. Okay, great. But lose just getting outplayed. You lost getting beat. You couldn't establish the run. You had drops. 2 weeks of straight drops. We're like I said, starting to see a pattern, fellas. That bothers me. But even when Pouncey and Connor were both healthy 5-6 weeks ago, the Steelers' offense was still in the 20s in the rank. They still never had a great offense. That worries me. You know what I mean? And I understand you look at teams, most teams aren't, you want to be balanced, but our teams aren't. Even Kansas City, as great as they are, their offense is significantly better than their defense. You know, you look at the Titans, their running game is significantly better than their passing game. So I understand teams aren't always, even Steven, even keel. But the Steelers can't run at all. That's what bothers me, man. So even if you can't run and you can't open holes, next week, if they come out with the fire in their ass, then maybe they'll be able to block. Because right now, they haven't been blocking anyone for weeks. But again, you're right. If they win, it's a different attitude. So maybe now that they're losing, maybe now they're coming in ticked
Well,
off.
they asked Tomlin what's wrong, and he said we're not making routine plays routinely. And now we get the smile in the face of a loss.
Yeah.
Which at the end of the day, fellas, the goal, and I put it out there on Twitter, the goal is to win every game, sure. But the ultimate goal is to get that championship, get that Super Bowl. Yeah, maybe this is okay. Yeah, because you gotta know we all played sports. Come on, you're sitting there undefeated. You're sitting there, man. Can we go 16-0? Could we do it? We got Washington. We still gotta play. Yeah, we can do it. We can do it. Maybe looking ahead a little bit. Maybe this is the one to say, okay, look, okay, don't get it twisted. You fellas ain't all that. You're not all that, because the same 11-1 Kansas City team, I personally think, will thump Pittsburgh, regardless of where they play.
I'm going to say one thing. There's one, and I'm going to go back a little bit into the game. There's one key moment in that game that I think caused this game to go the direction it did. There was about 145, 148 left on the clock. End of the first half. We had the ball on the 10-yard line. You got Ben Roethlisberger, 17-year veteran at quarterback.
Yeah.
You're throwing the shit out of the ball. Okay, we're making some drops, but he could throw the ball. I've seen Ben move that team down the field in a minute and a half and score a touchdown. Yeah. We run the ball, which we're not doing effectively. We throw a 2-yard pass, which we drop. Then he throws another pass, and we come up short. We punt the ball. We shank the punt. It gets to what, the 45? They have one great big play because we missed 2-3 tackles. They have a nice block. Yes. Next thing you know, they're kicking a field goal.
Yep.
That was a decisive moment in that game that changed the fortunes of a team that you could have buried. Even if you use that time moving down the field, kick a field goal, or just keep them from scoring. Keep them from scoring.
You make a compelling argument there. But I will tell you, for me, the point of the game is when they could not punch it in from first and goal, at the 1-2 yard line, 4 plays, you couldn't get it in. That right there, that did it. You're not running the football. And listen, the Washington football team's defensive front is nothing but first round picks, Payne, Sweat. I mean, let's not act like, oh boy, they just took out Ohio State. I mean, let's not act like they're a bunch of slouches. That's a stout defensive front. No,
decent defense. That defense is
they do got a decent defense.
2 yards, fellas.
Yeah, but if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's first and goal from the 2, and you get 4 cracks at it, hell, take away the 1 pass you threw to a backup tackle because you knew you couldn't run. I gotta believe, if I'm a gambling man, I'm betting on Pittsburgh getting 2 yards in 3 runs.
You know what's the saddest part of that pass? When they showed it on the replay, Derek Watt is standing there all by himself behind Hawkins. Everybody's already flowed. He hasn't thrown the ball, and there's Derek Watt standing there waiting
by himself.
And you know what else is? You know what else is even just let you know that they know they cannot run the football. Rashene, 4th and 1, and you try to throw the ball 15 yards down the field to McFarland?
I know. Has 5 catches all year?
Come on.
But he had his guy beat, though. He had his guy
He
beat.
did, but if that's what you're resorting to because you can't run the football,
I think it was more of a get me one-on-one and knowing he could beat Bostic. I mean, was the pass good?
was it Ben could have made a better throw, of course.
Bostic was way
Could have
out
made a
of
better
position.
throw.
Yeah, he was. And here's my thing.
I don't like that call, fellas.
We don't like that.
Throw
call.
it to Juju. Throw it to a wide receiver on 4th and 1. Don't throw it to McFarland, your third string running back.
To me, it was we're afraid and we know we can't run because of what happened earlier in the game. I think the Redskins knew they can't run. The Steelers know we can't run it on them. So we'll try a pass play.
Well, that's great because guess what? Tomorrow morning when you wake up, you're still not going to be able to run a football.
I know.
So you better figure something out quick. They got to figure it out.
Get imaginative. Got to get imaginative. Something. Between Washington, Johnson, McFarland, Juju, Snell, those guys are quick. They're quick. They get them in space. Do whatever you have to do. I don't care what they say in the movie. Whistle, tell him a story, spit in his ear, do something to keep him occupied. I mean, if you get those guys in space, I think any one of them, just like Washington went, 50, 55 yards tonight, any last one of them, you get them in space, I truly believe can do that. I believe can get a healthy diet and do that. Just got to get more creative with it. Get more creative with it, man. That's what I think. Get more creative with the offense. I think we'll see some things open up because you can't change now. You're 12 weeks in. You can't change. You know what I mean? You can't change the playbook, can't change your O-line. Got to work with what you got. Got to dance with who brought you.
I always wonder why they don't go with the 5 wides. You can't watch all 5 of them.
Yeah, and they got some talent. Fellas, listen, I started the show by saying that don't overreact. And I'm still, it's a bad loss, right? It's salty.
It's how they lost is what bothers me.
It sucks because you can't run the football. You have a lot of starters that are out. But at the end of the day, you're still 11-1.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know where the tiebreak comes with them in Kansas City. I haven't had an opportunity to look or see much.
Kansas City lost in the division or in the conference. The Steelers lost out of the conference. Pittsburgh wins that if they're both 15-1.
So Pittsburgh, if they win out, they still get the bye.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. And as of right now, the Steelers,
that has to be the goal, the way they're banged up. That has to be the goal.
Yeah, but their season as the Steelers' remaining schedule is significantly harder than the Chiefs' remaining schedule. And the Chiefs' opponents have of their combined records because people say, well, the Steelers had a cakewalk season, they haven't played anybody. But the Chiefs, exactly, and the Chiefs' opponents have a worse loss record than the Steelers' opponents.
That's funny.
You know what I mean?
Say that. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you who the Chiefs have played this year. They beat Bill O'Brien. They needed overtime to beat a 3-8 Chargers team. They beat the Ravens. They beat Brian Hoyer.
Yes.
They lost to a 6-5 Raiders team. They beat Buffalo. They beat the Broncos. They beat the winless Jets. They beat the Panthers. They barely beat the Panthers. They barely beat the Raiders a second time. They barely beat the Bucs, and they barely beat Denver last night. Okay.
I know. And if Denver had a little more talent,
fellas, who cares? They're 11-1, just like Pittsburgh is. Now, let me ask you this. You're a gambler, man. You got $100 in your pocket and it's burning your pocket up and you ready to get rid of it. And I come to you with a bet. Who you got, Pittsburgh or Kansas City?
I got Pittsburgh.
I like the defensive side.
You guys are home.
If they're healthy.
They just lost to the 4-7.
If they're healthy.
If they just lost to Washington.
If Pittsburgh puts a healthy defense on that field.
Washington's starting running back was out. Washington did not have 1 sack, and they beat Pittsburgh.
It's the NFL, Mike.
I still think.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Any given day.
It is.
I still think a defense in the playoffs makes a difference. I still think if they get after Mahomes, it makes a difference. You take Tyreek Hill, you take Kelsey off the field.
Okay, listen, real quick. Pittsburgh's defense is elite, right? Make no mistake about it. And to be honest with you, fellas, even with the starters out, and even with Bush being out all year, they're still solid. Spillane, I never saw that coming from him. But we'll see what's up with him. But all the starters, they still played well. But you tell me, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Clyde Elaire, Le'Veon Bell, Nicole Hardeman, Sammy Watkins. I mean, the list goes on. It sounds like a track team.
But you're absolutely right, Mike Doc, and I'll give you that. But the Steelers can get pressure with 4. If they and those guys and look at run it back when if you go
You're not
through
playing Alex Smith. You're talking about
and I
you're talking
get
about
that.
Pat Mahomes.
And I get that, but if you look at who the Chiefs have struggled against, it's guys that can get pressure without blitzing, and guys that can get pressure with 4, and they can do that. They can get pressure with 4, fellas. They can.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
man.
going to be fun. But Rashene, let me ask you. So Pittsburgh's schedule. Who Pittsburgh has next week? Who they got next week?
Buffalo,
Buffalo, and then who did they follow?
Indianapolis,
and then Cincy.
And then Cincy, then Cleveland, or vice versa. Okay, so Buffalo's next. Buffalo's beating San Francisco right now, so Buffalo probably will be 9-3. And that game's in Buffalo too, isn't it?
Buffalo,
Right.
I think Josh Allen's he's going to get them, guys. I don't think Pittsburgh beats Buffalo.
I don't think Buffalo has enough weapons.
Because again, with that, if that front 4 is healthy, we can't take anything off the table. And I understand that Highsmith, and I'm not a huge Bud fan, and he's not Bud, but he was getting close to Alex Smith tonight. He's going to get another week of practice under him, maybe learn to swim, maybe learn to rip, maybe learn some moves from Watt. How to
time.
Yeah. So I like that front 4. I like that front 4. I really do. So
If they get it done this year, it's because of the defense.
You know what?
Without question.
Highsmith has to cause them to be concerned about him. They can't go into preparation knowing, hey, we're going to lock our left tackle up on Highsmith. That's a done deal. Let's move on. They have got to be concerned that he's on the field. They've got to be willing to chip him from time to time, as well as have a tackle cover him. They got to be willing for a tight end to come down and give him a shove once in a while, as well as a tackle account for him. If that happens and you need 2 guys to account for Highsmith on a semi-regular basis, they don't miss a beat, because Chops hit it right there. He said Bud's either taking a free run or Bud's getting knocked back and coming around to make a play. Yeah, man. If Highsmith can do those things, they don't miss a beat. And I think he was doing some of that tonight simply because we got 3 sacks. And we got close a lot of times there.
69 straight games with a sack, man.
The thing,
that's a hell of a record.
The thing to say the Redskins in the end was the fact that McKessick was sitting out in the flat by himself for whatever reason, because we had that changeover at the linebacker spot. Now, the one thing that really irritated me was that field goal at the end.
Yeah.
Alex Smith knew exactly what he was doing, and I want y'all to tell me what you feel about this. He knew what he was doing when he got up and walked off that field with that ball. That was a run.
And the ref should have known that.
That was a delay of game. That should have been a penalty that ended the first half. Point blank.
Yeah.
Point blank. For the referee to come up to the field on the mic and say it was an official's whatever he called a judgment, we had to talk about something, whatever the bull crap thing was he said. That was ridiculous.
Right.
Because Alex Smith had that little smirk on his face.
I know.
He's a veteran. Hey, listen, fellas, it's the same thing that Pittsburgh pulled last week when they was laying on old boy at the goal line for 30 seconds and nobody. That's a delay of game. That's a penalty. Hey, it's the tricks of the trade. He's a wily veteran. Hey, that's what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, if you'd have told me, give him those 3 points, I still say Pittsburgh should win this football game.
Yeah, they should have. And again, fellas, I'm not upset that they lost. I'm glad they got the loss out of the way. It's how they lost.
True.
Couldn't establish the run. And consecutive weeks with multiple dropped passes. That's what bothers me.
Let me ask you fellas this. Here's a question, Rashene, for you first, bro. You're Mike Tomlin. You walk into the locker room after this game. What do you say to your football team?
Forget about it. We move on to next week.
Oh, I got to come harder than that. This was gut check time. We couldn't run the ball. They punched us in the mouth. You drop passes. That is me. I charge you. I charge every one of you receivers to self-examine. You shouldn't drop passes. We're not asking you to catch one-hand passes. We're not asking you to be Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, run. No. You should not have dropped these passes. We need to take the day off tomorrow, do whatever you got to do. When we come back on in this facility for next week, because I'm telling you now, Josh Allen, Moss, Singletary, those boys, they are ready. And
do you think that message goes through? Because last week when they lost to Baltimore, they asked them what the problem was, and Mike Tomlin said, "We suck."
Yeah, well, see, I mean, so the difference between what I said and Chops, shots.
He expounded on it. You
Well,
just,
no,
you
I
just
think it was
gave
more.
it up
He was
front.
more like a high school coach. These
Yeah.
grown men, man.
Yeah,
These
true.
grown men.
Hold
True.
on, you're absolutely right, and I say this all the time. They are grown men. So when you're looking at those grown men, and you're on national TV, the entire world is watching you because there's no other NFL on, and you can't. You're lined up against another man that's right in front of you. You practice 7 days to block him. He practiced 7 days to stop you, and he's been whipping your ass like you stole something. If that after first and second down doesn't light a fire into your ass, that you say, Coach, damn the run play, called a run play because he's been whipping my ass and I'm getting him back. The Steelers didn't do that. As grown men, you should have wanted to punch him in the face after that.
Man,
after that damn,
you know, you sound like Coach Boone from Remember the Titans.
man, after we
Hey,
hit that run pass, man,
Herm, leave no doubt.
yeah, run it up. Man, I'd have been hot. I'd have been after they stopped us on those 4 downs in the goal line in the first half. Look here, Ben, you can throw the ball left-handed for the rest of the game because we don't need to run it. We're gonna punch them and run it down their throat and punch them.
Mark, what do you say if you're Tomlin and you walk in that locker room? What do you say to your team?
Well, first of all, last week Tomlin was hard as hell on them.
Yeah.
Right out of the gates. Then he came back the next day and he got a soft stance and he started praising people. Okay.
Because he's a player's coach, man. He's a great coach.
And that's all well and good, and I get that. I remember years ago when I was teaching, and Dwight Freeney's brother worked with me. He taught with me, and he was getting married. And Dwight Freeney came to the school, and I spent about 2 hours with him, talking to him, hanging out with them. He was an awesome guy. And I said, why do the Indianapolis Colts, Dwight, perform like they do? And he said, let me tell you something. He said, one time in a game, I made a play and they ripped off a big run or whatever it was. He said, and I looked over at the sidelines and I looked at Coach Dungy, and he said, it was like looking at my dad, and I disappointed my dad. And I never made that mistake again. He said, you have got to take it personal when you have a guy who coaches you like that. He's not going to scream and yell at you because Coach Dungy doesn't scream and yell.
Right.
But he gets through to you because he cares about you and he's coaching you up to be the best you can at your position. And I think when Tomlin did what he did last week, right out of the gates, he showed his emotional side, which we never really see that from him. And when he reevaluated where he needed to be, he took into consideration what Tony Dungy had taught him, and he went back in like that. He needs to go back in that locker room like that with those guys tomorrow and say, listen, you guys let your foot off the gas pedal when you were up 14-0. We have got to fix things, and this is the way we're going to fix them. He's got to come in with a specific plan for each group of people. Okay, he's got to sit in on that offensive meeting and find out why Fichtner's offense cannot run the ball. If he has to go down in the trenches with Surratt and get that offensive line right because he's talking to those men to get it right, that's what he's got to do. As the head coach, it all falls on him. Think about it for years and years. All we hear about is we want to see Mike Tomlin, we want to see him, fired. I don't necessarily want to see him fired.
No, Pittsburgh be crazy to fight.
Yeah.
I think it's like Rashene said, they're grown men.
Right.
They know what they need to do. They realize how they play. But at the end of the day, fellas, I got to be honest with you, having played sports my whole life, coach can say what he wants. But when the next man, your teammate, look at you and say, bro, you're sucking right now. Like, you got to pick it up. That carries more weight for me. I don't know how it is at the professional level.
That goes back to Bud.
Hey, they got to be looking at each other and say, yo, we just lost to Washington at home. And we were up 14-0.
Let's hope. But also, and it's kind of funny, real quick, let's not forget, because I don't want to go too long, but let's not forget, is we talk about how Dungy was. Dungy got ran out of Tampa Bay because, what do you say, his lack of fire, whatever it was, he could take them to the playoffs, but they couldn't win a championship. Then what'd they do? Next season, Gruden came in with his team with a little bit of fire and won a ring. Now, Gruden, now I understand Tomlin, or should I say, Dungy ended up winning. Of course, he had the best quarterback in the league when he did it, is with, Manning, one of the greatest to ever do it. But at some point, guys, you got to put foot to ass, fellas, because what they say, you never coddled anyone to greatness. Guys, and I understand you should realize as a grown man, this is about whatever have you. But also in the same token, these guys are like, I got my paycheck. Sometimes guys are like, I got my paycheck and I'm good. That's why guys hold out. That's why guys do whatever they have to, trade, leave, whatever. They should have known for weeks. we're getting our asses kicked up front. We
Right.
are getting beat when it's blocking one-on-one. The entire league sees we're getting beat one-on-one, and nobody's come out kicking ass trying to run block, and that's what bothers me.
You know what I say if I'm Mike Tomlin? I walk in there, I have every other coach get out. I have nothing but the team in there and me. And I tell them this performance is the same performance that we had last week against Baltimore. Came out flat, played flat, fumbled, special teams sucked, offense turned the ball over, same performance. But we got away with one. Tonight we lost. We're 11-1, and we're still sitting in the same position as if we were still 12, if we would have been 12-0. We're still ahead of Kansas City. So fellas, let's put this behind us. I'm gonna walk out this door. I need my captains who were voted on by the team to stand up and get this football team ready to play next week against Buffalo.
That's going to be the tell.
Who's thumping, the 49ers right now.
They'll have their practices and they'll get it right this week. I really believe that this was the wake-up call. They needed to see that one in the L column to really get them going. Hey,
Yeah,
last thing. Let's do this. Let's predict this week, okay?
All right.
Rashene, Steelers, Buffalo, Sunday night. Who you got?
I hate to say it, man, but you know what?
Your name ain't Rashene, bro.
Yeah, chill.
Good, man.
It doesn't matter. I didn't even hear him say Rashene. My cousin plays for the Bills. He's the defensive tackle.
Who?
Quentin Jefferson.
Okay.
Yeah, he's from.
Get us some tickets, baby.
He played at Woodland Hills. Then he went to Maryland and played for Seattle first 3 years. Now he's in Buffalo. Yeah, I think we're gonna lose this one, man. I do. If they don't get nothing, if they don't change nothing around, yeah, we're gonna lose this one too.
So Rashene, let's think about it though. Pouncey should be back. Connor should be back. Hayden, they said what? Concussion? Was it a concussion for Hayden?
Yeah. Nelson.
We'll see. He still should be back. I don't know. Spillane is the one. I don't know. It was a knee for him, wasn't it?
Yeah. I don't think it was a bad knee. I think
he's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, you're getting them back. So
they all played in Baltimore though, and it was the same thing. If this play calling doesn't get any better, this is going to continue.
Yeah.
Chops.
Yeah, I hate to see it, man. I see a 2-game slide. I see a 2-game slide. I believe you, Metis. I don't want to. I want to be wrong so bad, but I just see a 2-game slide, man. I just see a 2-game slide. Now, here's going to be my thing though. If you guys have watched Allen much, and I have because I have him in my fantasy league, when he gets pressured, he still makes dumb mistakes. We're talking about Pouncey coming back and possibly Connor in the running game. Again, I'm putting it on the front four. If they can pressure him, because again, Hayden may not be healthy, or whatever, the corners may not be telling him healthy. But if they can pressure him, he runs nice. He does, but at some point he's going to throw and he makes some mistakes, man. So I'm looking at the front four and the D line. That's my key.
That's the one thing Washington didn't do tonight. They didn't turn the ball over. Not one time.
I'm going, fellas. My heart says after the last 2 performances, Pittsburgh's going to realize, we played terrible the last 2 games. We split them. I think that the offensive line gets challenged up front. We need to establish, control the line of scrimmage, be able to run the ball, guys. We can't have Ben throw it 51 times against Baltimore, 53 times against Washington. We can't do it. But I still think Buffalo beats them 27-24, something like that, man.
All right. I'm going to go against y'all. I'm going to say they get it right this week. I'm going to say they run the ball. I'm going to say Connor rips them for at least 100. They're going to get it right. Okay. I just think they're going to get it right this week. I'm going to say that they spread that ball around. We have less drops. If we cut 7.5 to 3, let's just say we cut it to 3. Let's say we cut it to 4.
That extends plays. Yes. It extends drives. Yeah, man.
Bro, you do know Christmas is the following week. So you're asking for a present a little early.
Yeah, it is what it is. Hey, Mike Doc, tell my people in the nation how they can listen to the Sports Podium podcast, please.
Yeah, man. Every Tuesday and every Friday, man, the Sports Podium podcast, man, we drop some stuff, man. We cover all sports. It's barbershop talk. It's unscripted. It's unparalleled. We throw topics out there and we just chop it up and just start talking about sports. You like it, you love it, you're going to want more of it, so you better peep it out. Episode coming tomorrow.
You can catch and anywhere you can hear podcasts. We just Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts,
recently
Spotify.
on Pandora. We're on Pandora now. That's a little
got hit on Pandora, you know. So we're out there, man, just trying to do our things, and we go at it too. Now, again, Mike Doc and I, we're technically cousins. So we've been arguing since we could talk and walk. So when we go at it, we go at it.
That's the banter connection right there.
Yes, man. Absolutely, absolutely.
The Keppel Hill kid.
Yeah,
that's it. And you get the sports fun fact of the day when you come peep out the TSPP, baby.
I love that stuff. Hey, connect with us here on the Steel City Nation podcast by checking out our website, steelcitynation2020.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We got a YouTube place, Steel City Nation podcast. I want to thank you guys, and I also want to thank my audio engineer, Sean Ankoviak, my video engineer, Angela Ankoviak, my voice intro from Matt Noble, my artwork for Steel City Nation by Joel Miller and Nikki Stewart, my music by Ryan Benton, my webpage and store manager, can't forget that special person, Terry Maradei. Hey, everybody, join us next time we're Iron City built on the Steel City Nation podcast.
Yeah, baby.